Hey everyone, Mike Wilkerson here from Two Guys Talking, here for the Fang Banger podcast. I'm with
David Carete, the host of the Fang Banger podcast, and you're watching the True Blood Transfusion, our weekly video-only segment where we do viewer feedback and True Blood news.
And I'm really glad you joined us today. We just finished up a review of Season 4, Episode 3. I forgot the name of the episode.
Oh, If You Love Me, Why Am I Dying?
Yeah, we just finished that up. It was a great banter discussion. I think you'll all be very impressed by it. Remember, you can go to fangbangerpodcast.com to listen to all of our reviews, including our True Blood 101, for people that either haven't started watching or forgotten the foundational aspects of True Blood. It's one of our top downloads, and we hope that you'll enjoy that. Let's jump right into the feedback, David. The first thing we've got is Kimberly from Vermont. Dave and Mike. First, I want to just address a note. When you send feedback, make sure it's David. Otherwise, I'll somehow catch hell for you're not getting his name right.
That's absolutely correct. I will blame Mike for everybody calling me something other than my given name.
Oh, good. Anyway, it's David. Anyway, Dave, Id, and Mike. Great to have a program on the internet that gets it on True Blood. I've been trying to explain to my husband that True Blood isn't about gays, blood, sex, and guts. Well, this episode shoots that to hell. In it, gays, Lafayette and his witch concubine.
Okay.
Blood, vampires feeding, duh. Sex, at least 4+ opportunities at outright hunka-chunka moments, with as well as inference. And guts. Can the kid eat guts and bones and sinew slower?
Yeah, that was a little disturbing, but once again, I think that's sort of the point of that, is for you to be reviled by these people a little bit. I think that's sort of why they're there. But I completely get what you're saying.
And really, this would not be the episode to try and warm up your husband on True Blood at all. If he has the inkling or chance, if there's only one episode you've got to show him and it's got to be something recent, I would tell you to show him episode 2, the last episode.
Absolutely.
That one's got a great cornucopia of different hallmark moments that showcase some of the stuff you're talking about, but not blunt over the head. One of the ones I wanted to hit blunt over the head with you is the focus and use of gays inside of the program. What I've always appreciated about True Blood is that you're showcased many things about being gay, being a lesbian. You have all those things showcased, but they're not blunt over the head like so many other programs that I've seen, especially on premium television.
There is nobody in the show that is their gender or that is their sexual orientation. Lafayette's character is gay, but he's not the gay.
Right.
And there's no...
He's even got a couple of snap bitch moments, but they're not ridiculous moments from In Living Color.
Right.
They add to the portrayal of the character, and again, you add on the gangster rapper-ness, and it totally takes it into a different echelon, for me anyway. That's a great piece of feedback. You end it with, thank you both. Thank you both for making this more about characters and good story than being just about horror. But how in the hell do I make my husband more interested in this show? And again, if you got one episode, show him the last episode, episode 2 of season 4.
Yeah.
If he's got the attention span for a season or 5 or 6 episodes, I would start him at season 1.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
go right back to the pilot.
Yeah, had I not watched season 1, I don't know who'd be doing this podcast.
Right.
It really does lay some great foundational track, but also some real hallmark moments for True Blood now fans, but people that aren't yet baptized in True Blood.
Absolutely.
Great. Into a couple of quick news items. Charlene Harris wishes she could be in True Blood audience at Comic-Con. Comic-Con is something that Two Guys Talking has been talking about going to for eons. When I wrote for the website Screen Rant at screenrant.com, we talked several times about going to Screen Rant or going to Comic-Con because it is that big an experience for fans, not just comic book fans, but for feature film and television viewing fans. And I totally understand why she would want to go. It's something where she can literally baptize herself in fandom. The room that she would be speaking or appearing in, or watching, I guess is what she's talking about here, would be full of people that have interest to either hear about her stories or the people that are standing on stage that are characters throughout the show. So I totally understand her interest there. We'll be linking on to that article as well from there. And what do you think? Would you like to go to Comic-Con if you had the opportunity to go, if you had your airfare paid? Would you go to Comic-Con? Let us know what you think by going to our website at twoguystalking.com. Click on the contact button on the top right-hand side of the page. Fill out the quick web form and let us know if you want to go to Comic-Con Next year, I don't know when the date is. It's about this time next year, and who knows? Might have a surprise waiting there for one super cool True Blood fan.
I know for a fact that I would like to go with my airfare paid, please. Thank you.
Second news item, The Thing poster. David and I were waxing philosophically this morning about the release of the newest The Thing poster. Now, it's not a remake of The Thing from the 80s. It's actually a prequel based on the horror science fiction film,
Right.
which is one of my favorites, by the way, by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, called The Thing. It's actually a remake of another one, but we're not going to get into all that. What Two Guys Talking will be doing, however, is we're going to review that program because obviously it's another thing with fangs. We'll be reviewing the original one, a perspective review from the early 80s, and then we'll be reviewing the new one that's actually a prequel. And while we were talking about that, you came up with a great piece of trivia that I thought we should share as well.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the original The Thing with Kurt Russell, the crew shows up, Kurt Russell's crew shows up, and a dog, a Malamute, a husky, runs up to them and starts licking on them. And out of the wilderness comes this crazed guy babbling on
two screaming Nordic dudes in cold weather outfits.
Babbling on in Swedish or whatever they're talking. And of course, they eventually get gunned down. Of course, what they were saying, literally, in, I believe it's Swedish, was, "That's not a dog, that's a thing, it just looks like a dog, don't trust it, our entire camp got wiped out, hey, help us." And then, of course, they get gunned down, which I thought was... I thought was apropos. If you spoke that language, it ruins the entire movie for you because you now know in advance that the dog is the thing. And if you haven't seen the movie, I apologize for ruining it for you.
Sorry, I forgot the spoiler alert there. Anyway, it's another great reason to watch that original movie with Kurt Russell. It's a brilliant movie. And again, I'm not a big horror fan, but you add on the science fiction and the twist inside those movies. If you think you had some jump out of your short moments at some of the more recent horror films, there are some in there that you need another pair of underwear. There's no doubt about it. Just really, really great cinema.
Suspense is always better.
It's always better, and I think it makes for better regular viewing, especially new viewers that may not be at all interested in horror, but you've got that definite push there. It's awesome. Let's jump back to feedback real quick. Yes. Joel from Waverly, Massachusetts. Dear David and Mike, I've been following Two Guys Talking since your Dexter 101 show, and I love the content, but don't understand why your previous programming has advertisements in it, and your True Blood podcast has none. None at all. What's up with that? I also wanted to ask you what you two thought of the Transformers Dark Side of the Moon. I think it's Dark of the Moon.
I think so too.
Dark of the Moon. And when you'll be watching and reviewing that. You're also missing a review for Thor and a number of other summer films. When can we expect those? So we've got the expecting, dotting audience now.
Yes. Well, let's see.
Hold on. Keep up the great work, and and please do showcase more thought than episode reviews. As you said in the last Transfusion, we've seen the frickin' episode. It's time to tell us what you think. And quote, I hear Two Guys Talking. Thanks, Joel from Waverly, Mass. You start.
Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to say that the Thor podcast is coming. We're diligently trying to put that together.
And we just got to a month out on the 27th, 28th, whatever of last month.
So generally when we do our reviews, we do a perspective review, which is when we can look back and say, it's made this kind of money, it's had this kind of an effect, it had that kind of a run, and that's a little different than jumping out there the day it was released or maybe the day before or the day after and saying, this is what we thought, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Instead, we sit back and say, this was the overall effect of the film. So that's coming soon. The fact that there are no advertisers in the True Blood podcast, the Fangbanger podcast, is because I do not have any sponsors as of yet. So if you'd like to sponsor the show, please drop us an email. You can go to thefangbangerpodcast.com and click on the Contact Us button, or you can go to twoguystalking.com and click the Contact button and let us know. If you like it without sponsors, obviously, then you're having a good time. But, we'd like to pick up a couple of sponsors. So that's why there are none yet.
Right. What I think you'll also see, though, is there's actually a big sponsor that I'm trying to secure that I'm going to keep on the wraps. But when and or if we secure them, you'll start seeing those advertisements appear back in. They're going to be shorter. We've definitely gotten feedback where very often the break in the center segment of the program is too long, and so we'll definitely be making it either 2 shorter ones or just shorter in general. But that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking because we don't get a lot of people asking where are the commercials. So that's good. The last thing you had was the Transformers podcast. I just saw it in 3D this last weekend with my dad, my bonus mom, my wife, and my daughter. And wow, I thought it was good the first time. The second time in 3D, you need to see this in 3D. There's no doubt about it.
I have not seen the film yet.
It was made and shot in 3D with the assistance of one James Cameron.
Right.
And so when you make a phone call and you ask James Cameron to come and help you make your 3D movie,
yeah,
it's something to prepare for, and it's definitely something that we'll talk about inside the perspective review of Transformers, which actually gives you the second answer, is that we'll be talking about that at least 30 days out, so another at least a couple of weeks. It'll probably be a lot sooner because there's lots and lots of dripping enthusiasm about it. We're also taking advantage of that enthusiasm at twoguystalking.com/Transformers. And you can go there and listen to all of our reviews, everything from the original DVD movie from the 1980s to the 2 feature films. And then again, there's a placeholder for that most recent one, Dark of the Moon, Transformers Dark of the Moon from Michael Bay. Great question. Thanks again, Joel. Let's jump to news real quick again. The Vincent Price movies are now on Hulu.
Yep.
For those of you that have forgotten, we also follow creature features and classic cinema to horror, stuff that's not just a bunch of taking metal, sticking it in the gut, and making cheese casserole squishing sounds. We are all about all of that, and we hope that you'll tell us what you want to see. But remember that many of the classic Vincent Price movies are now on Hulu. My dad told me that Dr. Phoebes is now on Phoebes?
Got me.
Phibes is now available in HD no less on Hulu. So make sure that you check that out. And we're actually going to touch base with some of the local Vincent Price fan clubs here in St. Louis. They just had a giant Vincentennial celebration.
Vincent Price is from St. Louis.
Yeah, and we would love to get those people interacting with the Fang Banger podcast. That would be awesome. Last bit of feedback I have is from our buddy Legend. Legend, for those of you that aren't familiar with Legend, is one of our hallmark contact us and break out the metal stick and give us the cheese casserole squishing sounds. And we always love hearing from him. It's Legend says, "What up, fellows? I'd wanted to chime in and smite the Two Guys Talking podcast True Blood effort on iTunes, but alas, it's not there. What gives? Provide me your delectable feed so that I may lay down my harsh, revieweth smackdown on your asses. Goodbye and good night, Legend." Legend, few people write like you, and we're excited for you to have it on iTunes. I submitted that last week after we had our what was the 3rd podcast available for the Fang Banger podcast solo effort, and so you should be seeing that here in the next day or two after it gets greenlit. Again, you're going to look for what I hope is True Blood Podcast. You can look for Fang Banger Podcast, True Blood Podcast Reviews, Two Guys Talking, and again, hopefully you'll put True Blood and it'll be up on top. But you've got to help us with that. Legend, if I could beg you to please just listen to the podcast a couple of times and then lay down the smackdown. Then we would maybe read another of your comments on a future show. If not, we'll probably read your comments anyway because you're too much fun.
So, yeah.
Anyway, we don't thank you for the smiting, but we thank you for the comments. We thank everybody for the comments. It's how we built the network. Last thing we have is the link of the week. We talked about it inside the most recent episode review for episode 3 title.
If you love me, why am I dying?
If you love me, why am I forgetting the episode title? That's something else that I didn't talk about inside the review. Is I'm like, okay. Anyway, so inside of totally lost my train of thought. Inside of that podcast, we started talking about the blog of one Mr. Mark Blankenship. He has True Blood episode recaps, and for anybody that's been listening to Two Guys Talking for any length of time, you'll understand our usual hatred of episode recaps because it's the same crap that you just got done watching less than an hour ago or a couple of days ago. It's going to at least be on your brain, so you need the written recap.
Yeah.
You know, Eric does thus and such. Suki does thus and such.
Right. And
Lafayette is gay still.
Right. No,
really?
Nobody cares for that.
Nobody cares. And so finding one that has some meat to it is a real rare finding. However, Mark Blankenship from the criticalcondition.com, who publishes his blogs and reviews everywhere. Has some stuff that really has some meat into it. I think it would make a wonderful podcast. I don't know if he's considered one, but you can find out all about his writings. In particular, the only True Blood episode recap that I'm going to be reading over at thecriticalcondition.com, as well as follow him on Twitter at symbol critcondition. And we're going to link up all of that via the details and show notes inside of this True Blood Transfusion. So until next time, I'm Mike Wilkerson, the co-host of the Fangbanger Podcast.
And I'm David Crete, the host of the Fangbanger Podcast, and you've been watching the True Blood Transfusion, only available at the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
Right. Remember to tell your friends and co-Fangbangers about this extra special feedback podcast, because this doesn't exist in audio form. You only get this via video, only via Two Guys Talking TV at twoguystalking.com/TV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. We need a remote control.